Hey guys, welcome back to the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast, the podcast where we talk to the people that know Lawrenceville best. I'm your host, Nate McGill from Gwinnett Magazine. Guys, today on the show, the colder weather is here, and we are talking about the heroes that keep our power on. Man, all the linemen, all the men and women working in electric and working in gas, all the folks that keep stuff running. This is kind of like a how stuff works episode in this episode of the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast. Check it out. Welcome back to the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast. We are excited to jump into this episode, really a how stuff works episode of the podcast today. You know, we're talking to these departments in the utilities of Lawrenceville, really the folks that make the city run. They make things work. And we're talking to Huston in the electric department. And we're talking to Todd in gas. Basically, guys, this is fascinating stuff to really talk about because probably more people in the state of Georgia really have a connection to Lawrenceville through the things that you guys do than they might realize. Even more people that live in the city limits have a connection to what we do in utilities and gas. And I just want to hop right in and kind of go around the table and talk a little bit about what we're doing in Lawrenceville as far as utilities go. Why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us a little bit about the department, and give us kind of the overview.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Name's Todd Hardigree. I've been with the city about 9.5 years. Started at the end of 2012. Brought in by the previous director from myself to help kind of fix the system up. The system was needing some repairs and needing some guidance, and hired me in to help him do that. Became the director in 2016, and that's about it for me.
Yeah.
I work all the time. It's a challenge to look after. We currently have a little bit over 1,400 miles of gas main pipeline in the ground.
Wow.
That's over 3 counties, Gwinnett, Walton, and Rockdale. We do have pipe in Newton County. We can't serve any customers. It's basically for redundance to backfeed into the system that we put in a couple of years ago. A little more than 50,000 customers that are active on with gas currently today in budget of about $50 million a year. And we're basically being part of the city. We're a nonprofit, so all that money goes back into the city, back to the residents.
Wow. Yeah. So you're raising money, for the city. They would not be able to do everything that they do in Lawrenceville. Growth really wouldn't be a thing if there's not a gas department where those lines are.
We play a big part in it, along with the electric department as well. Our funds that we do raise and that we have revenue on, it directly goes back into the city to help the citizens keep the taxes low and help grow Lawrenceville into what it is. Absolutely.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that and get into it. We're going to hop over here to Huston. Tell us a little bit about the electric department in Lawrenceville. What do you think the overview is? How did you get into it?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm Huston Gillis. First off, thank you for allowing us to be able to come here today and talk.
Absolutely.
Today is kind of unique. It is the National Lineman Day. So if you are out there and you do see some of the linemen, make sure you thank them, kind of give them a pat on the back. But like I said, today's National Thank a Lineman Day. But so I started in the industry about 14 years ago. I started as a lineman going through tech school. Started that route with a contractor and then through some other organizations, and fairly new to the city, if you will. I've got about 7 months under my belt. So pretty new to the city, but as Todd mentioned, the electric department, it adds to the city's revenue as well. It goes back into the city's funds that they use for all kinds of things. One of those is maintaining our electric department, our electric grid. A lot of people don't realize that the city of Lawrenceville has its own power company.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of unique. There's several other cities throughout the state that have their own power company, but it's kind of confined to the city limits of Lawrenceville. So roughly about 14 square miles that we cover.
Wow.
With that is a little over 13,000 meters that are out there, primarily residential, some commercial, some industrial. So we cover a vast array of different needs throughout the city. That goes anywhere from preventative maintenance to what's currently there to new construction for new developments, or just making changes as necessary for GDOT projects or other city projects that are out there.
Do you know the history at all about like how the city came to have its own power company?
So a little bit, yeah. In the early 1900s, the city created its first generating facility.
Wow.
And what that was used was primarily for streetlights and trolley cars in and around old downtown Lawrenceville's courthouse.
That's amazing.
It's been around for a long time.
Right.
If you kind of think back, early 1900s.
And if you think about the city just being one of the oldest cities in Georgia, really 200 years old. So, you think, well, it's one of the ones that have a power company. That's probably because they needed power a long time ago. So
absolutely.
That's amazing to know. I can't imagine trolley cars going around Lawrenceville, those old electric trolley cars. Well, I think that, for you guys, like it's a rare case when we're talking to a city that you guys both have clients, customers, folks that you service that are out there in the city. And, what is the problem that those customers, clients are trying to solve when you guys get a phone call? What's the number one issue that folks want? Is it outages? Is it, what do you usually get phone calls for?
Typically, nobody really thinks about us until the lights go out.
Right. Okay.
So outages typically are primarily first and foremost.
Sure.
When somebody's calling. But I would say secondary would be any type of new services that are coming on. Lawrenceville's experiencing incredible growth right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting new meter sets all the time for new construction with different developments across the city. So I would say that's probably first and second.
Really growing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you guys are doing a lot of hookup. How about you guys? Because when you think about gas, a lot of times you think about, okay, well, gas, I cook on a gas stove or something like that. But restaurants, I mean, there's a lot of folks that use gas for different purposes. So
absolutely.
How about you guys?
So the gas department with Lawrenceville, we don't go past the meter. So anything that's serviced, we go to the meter, we stop there. Probably our number one call, because we're so busy with new development down in Grayson area in Walton County, is probably builders checking on, getting gas installed to the new houses, the lots out there, or getting the mains installed into the subdivisions, so on and so forth. So that's probably our number one. Our number two is probably someone smelling gas in their home.
Okay.
Or they're out walking their dog and they smell gas going down the street or something like that. That's probably our number two call.
Give you guys a call.
So we do check for gas inside, outside, to make the customer safe. That's number one priority with us, is to make sure that the building is going to remain intact. To go in and check any kind of gas levels. We do check for carbon monoxide or something like that as well. We kind of do that as a courtesy. We will also make sure that appliance is safe. If we can isolate that appliance, we'll cut the valve off to it to make sure they keep gas on, especially in the wintertime. If their stove is leaking, then we can isolate that, just cut the stove off and allow them to keep their heat on. Some gas companies don't do that. They'll just turn it off at the meter and say, hey, you got to make it safe. But we go that extra step to make sure our customers are comfortable and safe at the same time. So,
When it comes to like other gas companies, or if I have a restaurant in downtown Lawrenceville, or if I'm one of these new construction projects in Grayson, like how does the Lawrenceville gas become an option or a choice, or is it a choice?
So the city of Lawrenceville owns the gas lines within their territory defined by the Countywide Safety Plan,
okay,
of the Public Service Commission,
sure,
of the state. So we have a defined territory. So if you're within that territory, we own the lines that are there. So basically, Lawrenceville put their own gas lines in starting back in about 1950.
Wow.
Through some kind of bond process that they borrowed the money. A lot of other cities were doing it kind of at the same time. Winder, Commerce, Social Circle, Madison. A lot of folks were coming off that main pipeline running kind of down through Walton County. There's actually like 9 gas providers inside of Walton County.
Wow.
There's a lot. That's the most in the state.
Holy cow.
So that countywide safety plan I was talking about still isn't completely finalized there because of all the gas companies kind of fighting over territory or the Public Service Commission just not getting it finalized, whatever the case may be.
I gotcha.
So basically, if you're within our territory, our lines are there. We installed them. The city invested their money in those lines back some years ago, and that means you're on our system. But just because you're on our system doesn't mean that you're paying, an exorbitant rate just to pay for our stuff or whatever. But
right,
we're very competitive, and that's kind of where we set our rates and stuff like that. If you wanted to go into that later on.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's fascinating stuff, I think, because I think it's just one of those things that people don't think about until they need it.
Right.
And then once it's on, you just don't think about it. Right. Where do you get your gas? Oh, let me check. Okay. City of Lawrenceville. Yeah. But I'm living in Grayson. That's weird. Yeah. Right. Is that weird? I think a little weird.
We get a lot of those calls.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
And we get calls from Atlanta Gaslight customers not knowing who their provider is.
Right.
Just because they have a Lawrenceville address doesn't mean they have Lawrenceville gas. There's some on the western side of town that are Atlanta Gaslight.
Okay.
And they have a marketer, and they pay their bill through their marketer, but that doesn't mean they're our customer. So it's just within those boundaries.
Super interesting. Yeah. So you kind of went over through a little bit of some of the history that is there. Mm-hmm. And these are foundational things. These are really the growth moments of the city as far as the history is concerned. I mean, 1900s, electric department formed, and then, grows, and having to maintain that over decades. Same thing for gas. I mean, someone had the wherewithal to run these lines as far as they possibly could. Walk us through a little. Do you know some of the history there that we could talk about?
Like I said, I know it started in 1950. They started installing the lines from the main pipeline that was put in the late 40s.
Okay.
So they had that main trunk pipeline from the transmission company, Williams, and they just laid the line from those points into town just to serve the customers they had at the time. Of course, we experienced the Gwinnett County growth in the 90s and 2000s, and it really took off. We typically add about 800 customers a year on average, 800 to 900. Probably over the last 10 years, almost 10 years I've been here, the most was about 1,200 in a year. Buford is typically doing a little bit more than us every year, so they're kind of catching us on the back end. But
sure,
this area is still experiencing a ton of growth.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And, as far as that goes, yeah, they the old lines that they laid were steel pipelines, and they were welded together. We just replaced actually some of that 1950s. It was actually the pipe was from the 40s. It was like old boiler pipe or something from World War II.
Oh my gosh.
Surplus stuff.
Yeah,
that they had put in the ground, and at the time there wasn't the kind of regulations and things that there are now about pipe thickness and coating on the pipe and stuff like that. So we had some corrosion issues with it, but we recently got rid of that probably, I don't know, about 3 years ago.
Okay.
It's completely gone now.
So it's all brand new.
Yeah. So the city went out and borrowed about $20 million or so for the gas department to improve its infrastructure. We had a mass outage back in 2014 that caused some issues with pressure, and that line was part of the issues as well, just being well undersized, being put in the 50s.
Yeah.
So we just updated that and spent about $20 million in capital to improve make sure that the customers are getting what they're paying for.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it can run for decades to come with no issues. Kind of give me the size, scope of your department. How many employees are working there? how many folks you guys have that are out there working, and maybe some of the, I don't know if you know any of the revenue points, but just how much money is coming in from you guys for the city.
Sure. Like I said earlier, from a revenue standpoint, my budget's in the gas department is about $50 million. Pretty much every year. And that depends, when the stock market prices for gas are up, our revenues look like they're up, but they're really not. Right. We basically set a margin over cost on our gas. Mm-hmm. So the customer is really getting the best deal out of that. We're not, shrinking and raising our margins all the time. It stays the same. So whatever we pay for it, we just add a small margin on top to ensure that, that it stays fair for the customer. So basically what we pay, you pay just right over that spot market price for what we pay. As far as the revenues, like I said, that's the $50 million or so there. So, of course, a lot of that is gas costs because we're going to spend, $30-40 million a year on just purchasing the gas. The rest is just in operations. And we spend about $3 million a year average probably on capital improvements. That would be the old steel pipe I was talking about earlier. We're replacing a good bit of that. And we have some old plastic pipelines in the ground that's leak prone that we're getting rid of. We have plans to wipe all that stuff out and keep it current, updated, and safe for the customers. As far as the department itself, we've got 43 employees, including myself. Mm-hmm. Typically, if somebody's calling and smelling gas, or if I need to set a new meter, that's usually our service department. Mm-hmm. I've usually got 4 service techs out there, kind of 2 in a north area, kind of north of Sugarloaf Parkway, and the other 2 are combing the Walton County, Rockdale areas that way. So from a standpoint of that, we've got 3 ladies that are coordinators inside answering phone calls as far as leaks, construction activities, service activities, stuff like that.
Pretty awesome. How about you? How many linemen are out there? How many folks are working at the electric department in Lawrenceville?
So right now we have 16 employees inside the department, including myself. Mm-hmm. We have some openings, so if there's anybody listening, feel free to check in on that.
Okay.
For that little plug there.
Good to know.
We have an incredible amount of knowledge that's in those 16 employees, some of which have been with the city for 25 plus years. Wow. And have been a lineman for 25 plus years. So their knowledge is incredible. And we rely on them heavily day to day, trying to understand where things were before the utilities were really mapped very well. Mm-hmm. But we use those 16 employees, and we utilize some contractors to maintain day-to-day operations. Sure. Like I said, on the maintenance and construction side of things. Mm-hmm. We operate somewhere in the $30 to $40 million budget range. And as Todd mentioned, purchasing our electricity is the number one cost. We do buy that from our generating partners through MEAG, and that's how we take it from transmission lines into our substations, then into distribution lines, which is typically what you see in and around town.
I was going to kind of ask about that. Just the whole supply chain of it. Like, where does it start, and how does it get to my house?
Yeah. So there's a vast array of options, if you will, whether it's hydro generating, solar, wind, there's the nuclear. That's a big one with Vogel around Augusta. Yeah.
So you guys purchased this power?
That's right.
And then licensed, I guess.
Yeah. So we purchase it through different projects that are out there with different generating plants, whether that's, like I mentioned, hydro, solar, nuclear, whatever the project is, and we buy a share of that, and we work with MEAG, which is kind of the overarching helper, if you will, in making that purchase. Wow. And then we take it from the generating station. It goes on the transmission lines and then into our substations that some people may drive around. You may have one close by your neighborhood. But what that does is it gets it into a distribution voltage, comes from very high voltage and then steps down to a lower distribution voltage where we can get that into your neighborhood, which gets stepped down again through the transformers, the little green boxes that are outside, or the trash cans that are hanging on the pole. It gets stepped down again to whatever voltage you need in your house or place of business. So, pretty decent flow, if you will.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks for walking me through that. How about you guys? Like, where does the gas start?
Starts in the ground.
Yeah.
We take the gas from the ground. By the time it's pretty much like a distribution. He's saying they step down in voltage. We step down in pressure. So those transmission lines have, up to about 1,000 pounds of pressure on them. By the time it gets to the home, we're only dealing with probably a quarter of a pound of pressure inside the home. Wow. So it's stepped down through a series of stations out there, and us taking the lines and turning them from transmission to distribution as well. But we're over 90% efficient from the well to the customer. And probably Lawrenceville is even more efficient than that, just because of our lost and unaccounted for gas is so low. We fix and repair leaks as we find them. We don't let them just kind of sit out there. As the law pertains to grades of leaks and stuff like that, we can monitor those, but we don't monitor any. We fix them right away. So we keep our unaccounted for, our lost gas, very low. So we're probably more efficient than the industry standard on that. We're probably close to 100% efficient from the well to the customer,
right,
on gas loss. So that's basically how it gets there. Like I said, it's taken from the ground to the transmission, then to us, then to the customer, kind of. Wow. In the same fashion as power, just different words.
Yeah.
Different methods.
Wow. That's it's all really fascinating stuff. So let's go fast forward to today, to the future. Innovations, new stuff coming to your department. What's new for electric? What's some new things that you guys are up to?
Man, there's all kinds of things that are going on right now. One of the most visual things that people will see, especially driving around town, are the changeover from our street lights. They typically had a reddish hue or maybe a yellowish hue to them. Now they're getting more of that LED vibrant color to them.
Daylight.
Daylight, bringing light to the night, if you will. But that's one of the biggest things that people are seeing around town. We have a process that we're addressing older lights right now and replacing those with those LEDs. So if you are listening, some of your neighborhoods will start getting those LEDs as we're able to make those upgrades. Some of the other buzzwords right now are your electric vehicles. We're getting countless calls about electric vehicles and people adding those to their homes. Sure. Personal charging stations, if you will.
Man, that is something new and something to think about. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. You drive around town and you're seeing more and more electric vehicles that are out there. So businesses are starting to contact us regarding charging stations for their business and how they go about adding that to their parking lots. And on top of that, solar is incredible right now. It's we're probably getting calls daily with somebody wanting to add a solar system or a PV system to their home. And having those conversations with them as far as what they're trying to accomplish and just making sure that it's going to keep us safe and secure on our side of things.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. And then I guess that is it one of those situations where the solar then just kind of comes back in, like people can actually make some money from that? Because you see those guys knocking on your door, like, are they telling me the truth?
Yeah, you can.
The guys that are like out in your neighborhood, y'all know, they're out there. They're like, hey, y'all put in some solar, and the pitch is sort of like, hey, put up some solar panels, and then the extra kind of goes back off your utility bill. Is that factual?
It is to an extent. One thing I would keep in mind and strongly suggest to our citizens and people who are being served by the city of Lawrenceville. Right now, we're not partnering with any solar providers.
Okay.
So
good to know.
be leery of somebody showing up and saying that we partner with the city of Lawrenceville. As of today, we do not have any partners with that.
Good to know.
Yeah, so just be leery on that. But there's an opportunity to make some money. You're basically buying from us on your power bill at a resale rate and then selling back at a wholesale rate.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to have clear expectations. A large system is going to be needed to provide any type of return.
Right.
That's why I strongly suggest making your house as energy efficient as possible.
Sure.
That way that you're saving the most money now before you install that system.
Right.
And then once you install that system, you're reaping the benefits there because it's less power that you're having to buy from the city of Lawrenceville.
Right. So if folks are interested in solar at any capacity for their business, they should call you guys.
Sure.
Yeah. In the city of Lawrenceville,
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely. We'll be glad to have those conversations with them.
Cool.
Do your research. Figure out if it's a good option for you. Same thing with any type of energy saving equipment. You want to do your research and make sure that it's a good fit for you and what you're trying to accomplish, rather than just kind of flying blindly, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Also, those charging stations for cars and stuff, not something you think of right away, but like how that works. Like, I don't have a Tesla, so I don't know. I mean, people with Tesla would probably know, but if I want a charging station and we want to put it here at the studio here, do people pay like they pay for gas there, or is the business paying for the electric for folks to just walk up and charge it? Like, how does that work?
It's kind of set up in several different ways. I've seen advertisements where people are paying for it, such as they are gas. Some apartment complexes are offering it as an amenity to their residents. Yeah. Same thing with businesses. They're offering that as a benefit to their employees or to their patrons, whoever come to that business.
Fascinating stuff. Yeah, man. The future's coming sooner than we think. It's here. Yeah. And so that's pretty awesome. Pretty cool strategy. How about innovations over here in the gas department? What kind of stuff are you guys talking about?
We're more boring than that.
Yeah.
Electric is, they're definitely, they've got it going on over there with their electric cars and their solar stuff for sure. But as far as innovations, we have upgraded a system we call SCADA. It does tell us what the pressures are. We can remotely read meters from our equipment for our larger customers. We kind of know what the flow rate is coming into the system from the transmission pipelines, and it gives us that live. So I basically have a little office set up to where the guys can monitor that at any time. I can actually do it on my phone sitting here. If I wanted to see the pressure. Because we had the big pressure issue back in 2014, we wanted to make sure we could monitor that.
Right.
We didn't know where our weak spots are. We didn't have that equipment out there. So over the last several years, we've made a dedicated theme to say, hey, we're not going to get caught with something bad again. We're going to make sure we're monitoring our system to make sure it's safe and it's giving you what you need at your home.
I think about like just one of the things, like, what does gas get used for? Because if I'm just the resident thinking about gas, gas gets used for my maybe heating, my gas oven, my fireplace starter. These are very practical things I'm mentioning here. But if I'm starting a restaurant, right, and I'm thinking about my menu, I'm thinking about the food I want to cook, I'm thinking about my marketing and my signs and my location and where am I going to be at. But I would imagine that gas is one of those necessities, but depending on whose zone that you're in, you could have like a completely different margin for your business, because gas, like you're saying, like if it's a nonprofit, for the city, and you guys are, competitive to the point, like how much more expensive is it to be in unincorporated Gwinnett out there somewhere?
So typically, if I could show a chart, I would show us right in the middle. And when I say right in the middle, we're usually as far as marketers go, we're on the bottom end. So if we're not lower than the lowest, we're going to be number 2 or number 3.
Gotcha.
Out of, probably 15 marketers within Atlanta Gas Light System, we're extremely low. The reason for that is not just the gas cost. People see that, hey, I can get gas for 35 cents a therm. City of Lawrenceville, you're charging me $1. But what they're not taking into account a lot of times is that customer service fee that the marketer has as a middleman, because we don't use marketers. We're our own marketer.
Gotcha.
And there's also a transportation fee from Atlanta Gas Light owning those lines, just like Lawrenceville does. And that rate is a base rate that can go from anywhere from $27 up to $43, $44 in the wintertime.
So, I gotcha. So you got to watch your fees and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
The full price to understand.
You do. You have to take and kind of backlog that through the Public Service Commission's website of rates. They have that on their website. And you can see what that monthly rate was every month and add those up, where we keep ours the same. We don't go up and down because of demand. Ours is just a flat fee. I think right now it's $23. So whether you use gas or not, it's $23. But on Atlanta Gas Light System in the wintertime, it's way over $40. So there's a lot of savings there. But as far as that goes, to keep our appliances, we have a rebate program offering right now. So if you want to go to the City of Lawrenceville's webpage, look under the natural gas tab, there's a rebates and tax credit section there.
Okay, cool.
We're offering rebates on anything from a dryer to cooktops to water heaters, furnaces.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So if you keep your gas appliance, you get a new one, then have us come out and look and make sure that you did install it, and we'll send you a check.
Oh, wow.
Up to about $500.
That's amazing.
So if you want to convert from propane, or if you're Total Electric, say you want to put a cooktop in, we'll install that line for free and give you $500 to go toward your cooktop.
Oh, so, my gosh. Wow. That's pretty cool.
We're doing some pretty.
I mean, who doesn't want a gas cooktop? No offense, electric, but I'm just saying.
Well, yeah. And I love to watch the cooking shows too. And everybody loves to have a gas cooktop. I got one at home.
Right.
After several years, I didn't have one.
Yeah.
And gas is, if you want to cook something, you want a fire.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of the caveman and cave woman and all of us want that fire to cook over. So no offense to electric, everything's great, but we can definitely hook you up.
Like we enjoy your lights, we enjoy having lights.
Yeah. And the air conditioning.
And the air conditioning. That's also.
That is great.
Yeah, we do enjoy that.
Guys.
So you got some pluses.
Yeah.
But when it comes to cooking, So when it comes to utilities, when it comes to how stuff works in the city of Lawrenceville, we've got gas, we've got electric. I guess we're missing sanitation today, but you guys kind of pour into sanitation, right? To kind of make it happen. What's the connection there? I know they're not here to speak for themselves, but
they're not, but I watched a presentation by Ray Long the other day, the sanitation manager, and he did show his budget up there, and there is some direct contributions from our departments into those that sanitation fund to keep those garbage prices low. I know for a while the city of Lawrenceville residents that had gas didn't pay for garbage.
Sure,
the pickup was free.
Yeah,
if you put a couch out there, or you put 20 trash bags out there, they came and got it and picked it up for free.
Yeah,
I know they've implemented a new cost. I think it's around $20. I'm not 100% sure of that, but they have nice new trash bins. The sanitation department has done a really good job at maximizing the efficiency of getting things picked up. I know I've seen a lot of positive things out there. It's so much cleaner looking when you drive down a street and see those nice, shiny, brand new blue trash cans that Ray and them have put out and take care of. And I know those guys work extremely hard every day. But
we wanted to throw them a shout out, throw them a mention. I can't thank you guys enough though for being here today, just to kind of talk through things. We could probably just keep chatting, talking about all the different variables, all the different things that get done. But just want to give a thanks to you guys for what you both do. Thank to all the employees of the city that are out there every single day to help everybody, all the residents, all the folks that are a part of Lawrenceville in some way. Even if they're way out there in Walton County somewhere, getting Lawrenceville gas is pretty fantastic, pretty amazing thing. So thank you guys for coming today, sharing with us. educating me, especially on the things that I don't know. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming out today.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that pretty much wraps up the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast for today. Make sure that you share this with your friends, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. Guys, can't wait to see you again next time. Until then, have a good one.